And this is the second part of the video. Now, of course, we saw what issuing a command means. And we saw that it doesn't matter which language, we did it in English. We can recognize a to, an oi, and a void command, both positive and negative, very fast. A to positive command is issued to a person in front of you. Maybe the name of that person is Antonio. Antonio, go home. Alright? Antonio, study. Antonio, be quiet. Antonio, stand up. You can issue that same two commands by issuing a negative command. For example, Antonio, do not stand up. Antonio, do not be quiet. Do not go home. You can issue the same command to more than one person. Antonio and John, go home. Antonio and John, do not go home. Antonio and John, stand up. Do not stand up. The NOI command is a command that the speaker issues to people or just one person, but includes also himself or herself. In English, that structure uses the expression let us. So a NOI command would sound like let's go home, let's study this, let's go to page 254, and so on and so forth. The negative would be, in fact, let's not study today. Let's go to the park. Let's not do this, let's not do that, let's not stop, let's not rush. Okay, so now we learn how to do all of this in Italian. Well, let me tell you one thing. Again, first of all, these are called informal commands. And I can tell you that both the NOI and the void forms of the informal commands are exactly the same as the indicative present tense that we know. For example, if I want to say let's go, which is the NOI form of the verb to go, I would just say andiamo. The only thing that I want you to pay attention to is that I do not use the pronouns noi. I would just say John, andiamo. Alright? It's not noi andiamo. If you say noi andiamo, you're saying we go. For you to say let's go, you just need to say andiamo. You might actually mention the people that are supposed to go. For example, you might say Marta, comma, andiamo. That means Marta, let's go. You might actually say non andiamo with a nice exclamation mark at the end. You are telling Marta, let's not go. Non andiamo a casa. Andiamo in discoteca. Let's not go home. Let's go to the disco. Okay? So just remember, you just use the NOI form of the verb and you're in business. You use the NOI form of the verb to issue a positive command. You put non in front of it to issue a negative command. What is important that you remember is you do not say NOI in front of it. If you say no in front of it, you will just issue a standard statement that means we go home, we do not go home. The same with the void form. It's exactly the same thing. I'm using the verb andare. I might tell John and Mary, andate a casa. That means John and Mary go home. I'm not saying voi. I do not mention the pronoun voi. That would mean you go home. I just want to tell them go home, andate a casa. And non andate a casa means do not go home. Now, as you can see, both the no and the void form are extremely easy. There is really nothing to understand or to remember. Make sure you don't use the pronoun in front of the verb, and then you can just state the no and the void form of the present tense and you're in business. For example, let's use the verb to study. How do I tell myself and other people to study? I would say studiamo. That means let's study. And remember again, Noi studiamo means we study. So, noi studiamo, we study. Studiamo, let's study. Non studiamo means in fact the opposite. Do not study. Let's not study. With the void form, studiate, it's a prompt to more than one person to actually study. That's what I usually tell you guys in class. Ragazzi, studiate. Okay? Usually you write a nice comma after the people that you are addressing. So something like this would mean boys study. Of course, I could just say boys again, followed by a comma, and I could actually tell you non parlate. Okay, what do I tell you if I say ragazzi non parlate? You have like 5 seconds to come up with a good answer, alright? I'm using the verb parlare in the void form with a negative form in front of it. I'm actually saying what? Boys, do not speak. Alright, let's finish this class now with the to form. The to form is the only form where you want to remember the rules. So make sure that now you understand this. This is probably the most difficult of the two. Okay, how do I address the to form? The to form, sorry guys, I'm taking some time to erase this. The to form is really different. For example, we do need to understand which verb are we using. If it is an other verb, another verb, or an either verb. Alright? So, if you're using an other verb, you issue a negative command by using the A ending. Studia. If you're using both an ERE verb and an IRE verb, you use the to command with an I, with an ending I. For example, vedi, scrivi, leggi, and so on and so forth. So again, I can look at one of you in the eyes and tell you, Joseph, parla. What am I saying? Parla. Okay, I'm saying speak. I'm using the verb parlare. It's an ARE verb. So I end the command with an A. Parla. But if I want to use an ERE verb, for example, I want you to to read, I would tell you, Joseph, leggi. If I want you to sleep, and I want you to use the verb dormire, I would say, John, dormi, and so on and so forth. That is good for the positive commands. What is the to negative command? This is actually the easiest one, but it's still a rule. It's different from the no and the void. So you need to remember this. Watch this video a couple of times so that you put the rules down. The negative to commands for any verb in the Italian vocabulary, you name it, it's non plus the infinitive. Let's use the verb to go, andare. If I want to tell somebody in front of me, do not go, I just need to say, Jonathan, non andare. If I want to say just one person in front of me, do not study, I would just say, non studiare. If I want to tell a person in front of me, do not be, I would just say, non essere. I'm sorry, this is supposed to be an E, of course. alright? If I want to tell somebody in front of me, do not be stupid, I would in fact say, non essere stupido. Now, this is the class for the day. We learned the commands. We learned the to command, the noi command, the voi command, the positive and the negative commands. Please watch these videos a couple of times and you will understand the rules. Tomorrow in class you will come prepared because you will have to perform some quizzes, homework and everything related to that. Thank you guys. I'll see you in class.